Hey, everybody, it's Rebecca Johnson of Supergirl Radio. We are going to get started here in a little bit, waiting on Morgan, so I'm going to fuss at her when she gets here. But we just want to go ahead and get the live stream started so that everybody can gather around. So I just want to let everybody know if you have any questions for Laurie Hernandez or if you have snap judgments, we'll take snap judgments from the chat. Make it clear. You got to have 2 choices for snap judgments. Sometimes we allow 3. So if you need to, you can stretch it out to 3 choices, but snap judgments usually are 2 options to choose from. But we are going to play snap judgments. We also have a little segment of Boardroom or Ballroom. So if you're interested in talking about Lena Luthor's wardrobe, that is the place to do it. So feel free to just drop comments or questions or snap judgments in the chat, and we will get to those. And if we don't get to them right away, just hang tight because we will. It's called starring them in StreamYard. So we'll kind of pin them and come back to them. So just hang tight. If we don't get to them right away, we will try to get to them. So if anybody has any questions for me right now before we get started, you can definitely do that as well. I guess I can go ahead and update everybody on what we're going to be doing on Supergirl Radio for the next couple of weeks. We've got some comic catching up to do. So we're going to be catching up on Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow next week. And then we're going to get into what we call Supergirl Radio Rewind. So that will be where Morgan goes back into season 1 and shares her thoughts on those episodes. That'll be a lot of fun. So we're going to be going back to season 1 to look at the first season of the TV show. So it looks like, Morgan, are you ready? Can I bring you in and fuss at you for being late? Okay, good. All right. So
I'm so used to it being 9.
I know.
I've never gotten ready faster in my whole life.
Let's see. I'm going to turn up my volume because you might be a little low. Is that Is that your normal?
It is my normal setup.
Okay. All right. You know what? I can actually.
Maybe I'll unplug, replug.
Yeah, try that and see what happens.
Okay.
All right. So we'll get Morgan's audio fixed and then we will get started. Okay.
Oh, how's this?
That's a little better.
Okay. Weird.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's me. Maybe I need to unplug and plug back
in. Technical issues.
Yes. So, okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and start a few comments. I see some coming in. All right. So we will get started here in a second. So just stand by while we do a little intro video, and then we will get the episode of the podcast started.
Lesla's downfall is just that eyebrow twitch that she can't help doing. Could you imagine if Hope was like, let's add that to the PowerPoint? Excuse me?
What year is it?
How old am I? This is how the podcast breaks up.
This is the last episode of Supergirl Radio. You want a Kryptonian? You got one.
Is it a movie about saving Argo? The answer to that one is no. It's called Witch for a Summer! Exclamation point. Where does she want to go? Ask her. Talk to her. Really commune with flat Supergirl.
Did we set the bar too high or too low?
I think we set the bar real medium.
You're doing an intensely adequate podcast.
Good.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Noyce, and you're listening to Supergirl Radio.
McGurk! I
Do
love
not
typing.
mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom, because
Her outfit, she looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. It's so fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Welcome to Supergirl Radio, your source for all things related to the CW Supergirl TV series and the character of Kara Zor-El. My name is Rebecca Johnson.
I'm working Glennon.
And for this episode of the podcast, we are live and wired with a special guest, and I suppose I should go ahead and bring her into the live stream. Welcome to Laurie Hernandez. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting. I'm very, very happy to be a nerd for an hour. This feels right. This is my natural habitat.
Welcome. Join us.
This is the place for you to nerd out. So, Laurie, if you're not familiar with Laurie, she is a New Jersey born. I think Morgan would be interested in that.
Jersey girl.
Two-time Olympic medalist, Dancing with the Stars champ, actress, author, and Supergirl fan. Just doing everything. So thank you for being with us, and welcome to Supergirl Radio. And a note for those watching live, if you do have any questions or snap judgments for Laurie, we will be playing them. Write them in the chat, and we'll try to get to them as many as we can. But we do have one rule for the chat. Just be cool. Be respectful of other people and their opinions. So that's our one rule. Everything else is kind of up to you. We will get to those questions when we can. All right, just to kind of get our feet wet and to get started, Laurie, there's some questions that we have that are kind of a mesh of your Supergirl fandom and your gymnastics career. So I guess we should start a baseline and just kind of all get on the same page. And if you would, tell us how you got into gymnastics.
Yeah, so I started gymnastics when I was about 5 years old. And originally I was in ballet. I didn't really like it. I was that kid who couldn't really sit still. And they told me that if I paid attention, they would give me sugar cookies. So I stayed for 2 more years, as one does. But then I started watching gymnastics on TV, and I told my mom I wanted to be just like those girls. And she said, okay, kind of random, but... And then she threw me in, and that was it.
Yeah, you could pretty much get me to do anything for a sugar cookie.
Today
I will do anything for cookies.
Yeah,
anything.
Still today now. Like you could get me to do pretty much anything.
Absolutely.
So that's a great start to your career, I think, with the sugar cookies. So you spent a lot of time with gymnastics, and you also pretty famously, I would say, went to Rio in 2016 for the Summer Olympics. And we were curious, there's a lot going on at the Olympics. And what is one thing that you took away from your experience there that just it sticks out as memorable for you?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was being able to see all the athletes that I grew up watching. That was pretty wild. That was mind-blowing. That's what really did it for me. It's like, oh wow, I'm here. But other than that, it's just recognizing the fact that there are people from all over the world who train so hard for their sports individually, and being able to see them all come in to one spot and do their thing, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that is really cool. I actually I've been to the Summer Olympics and the Winter Olympics, so I've dipped my toe in
jealous.
different ones. I went to Atlanta for the Summer Olympics, and Utah, Salt Lake City for the Winter
Salt Lake
Olympics.
City, yeah.
That was the time that I sort of kind of maybe stalked Michelle Kwan. Not really, though.
Listen, it's understandable.
So my family and I were in a pin trading shop, because we like to collect pins, and we saw someone who looked like Michelle Kwan, and I told my brother, I was like, that looks like Michelle Kwan, because I had just seen her figure skate like a couple of days before, and I was like, I think that's Michelle Kwan. And so when we walked past her, we were walking up a hill, and she was walking down, and my brother said something because he's a lot more he's bolder than I am, and he said something like, we really loved your skating the other day, and she said thank you, and we are like, oh my gosh, that is Michelle Kwan. So that's my big Olympic story, is that I sort of met and stalked Michelle.
Love that.
Is
that
your
that
best
for you.
friend with Michelle Kwan?
I have a picture of that. Maybe I'll try to link that in the show notes afterwards. I have documented proof of.
I thought the way that story was going was that like you traded pins with Michelle Kwan, which would have been really cool.
That would have been a better
We did
story.
pin trading. That's a thing.
Did you guys do that?
Yeah, and so basically our entire team, we had this game of like, okay, who can get the most pins by the time the games are done. And so we had pins all over our lanyards, and in the cafeteria we would go to other countries and point to our pin and be like, can we have one, swap with us. And it was, I think I ended up with like 63 or something absurd. Ali won the entire thing. She had over 100 pins and hid them in a drawer so that way none of us could steal them. It was pretty great.
That is awesome. That's a really fun thing to do during the Olympics. So that's good to hear that Olympians also collect and trade the pins. That's very cool. Well, since the Winter Olympics just wrapped up in Beijing, and I was curious because I was thinking about this because I was looking at the list of Olympic sports in the Winter Olympics, and to me, when I see the sports, I'm like, are all these sports just like a risk-taking, am I going to die sport? Because the skeleton event where you just, it's like your body on a sled and you're like, you're not in a sleigh
where your head is facing down.
Yes.
Like the scariest one.
Yes.
Because there's one where your head is facing up, and I feel like I could kind of do that because I could trick myself into thinking it wasn't so bad. But I don't know how you trick yourself when you're like head first. I think that's hard to justify.
Yeah, no, I look at stuff like that and I'm like, I could never do that, but I think people do that to me too, so.
Yes. I mean, I see the gymnastics too, and when you guys flip in the air, I'm like, how?
It's kind of like airbending,
Yes.
You just gotta get real comfortable upside down. It takes a second, but, once you get the hang of it, sometimes you still don't get the hang of it, so practice makes perfect.
Yeah, we did have a question in the chat. Kay Thanks, which is a great name, wonders how it feels to fly when you're in gymnastics.
Yeah, flying is a pretty... How do I explain it? I think because I'm already focused on what I'm doing in the air and how I'm landing, you don't really get to enjoy the flight time when you're upside down or when you're flipping, just because every moment counts and you're always prepping kind of for the next thing. But there are a couple skills. We have one called a double layout, which is like a double backflip, but you're laid out in this position as if you were laying down. And when you do that skill the right way, there's like a lift that happens and you get to kind of just throw your arms out. And that one, you feel like you're flying for minutes. That feels really good.
That's so cool.
So you're basically Supergirl in the gymnastics area.
Maybe.
Getting to fly. Morgan, I was curious, did you have a favorite Winter Olympic event?
I'm all about the figure skating. It's all figure skating all the time for me. I'm like, I can't miss any of the figure skating. I love the costumes. I love the pageantry. So great.
What was that event that you were telling me about, the bobsled that's just one person?
The mono bob, it's new. It's like you're in a bobsled, but it's just you. It's
the Monel bob. Yeah. I had to. I saw an opportunity. I took it.
That's the bobsled event where Monel, just by himself, gets into his own pod
and goes away.
He says, Cara, I must go. You'll never see me again in this life. Then he gets into his mono bob and off he goes down the.
And she's like, all right.
She's like, peace. I would love the Monel bob though. That would be hilarious.
The Monel bob.
There you go. And Laurie, do you have, if you weren't interested in gymnastics or participate in gymnastics, is there a summer Olympic event that you like to watch?
Ooh, I think synchronized diving is pretty cool. My brain can't comprehend that. The idea that you're flipping, but while you're flipping, you're using your peripheral to watch the other person next to you to make sure you're doing things at the same time. I don't understand that. I don't get how that's done. I'm just focused on making sure I'm not landing on my head, but they're over here doing things at the same time, and it's so beautiful and cool, and yeah, I respect it.
It is very cool to watch, especially when you can see everything that's going on Is that synchronized diving different from synchronized swimming? Because I like it when you can see underwater, like see what they're doing.
Oh, that's
so cool too. Then you get to like see the formations underwater, which nobody obviously gets to see because we're usually not underwater with them.
Right.
Spoiler alert.
We do have another question in the chat. Emma asks, which Olympic sports do you think the Supergirl characters would compete in?
Ooh.
Nice. I think... Ooh. Let me think about this. Well, Lena, naturally, I would say fencing, because that is, like, sort of canon, I guess. Is it?
A classic. I think so.
Yeah.
Somebody else actually asked that same question, and I think mentioned that Lena... Katie McGraw Book Club said, Lex once mentioned that Lena could have been an Olympic fencer. So, there you go. You already got it.
Yeah, and even on Smallville, I believe Lex was into Michael Rosenbaum's
that's
Lex
true.
was into fencing.
It's a Luthor trait.
It's a Luthor trait. What a Luthor sport to do. Fencing? Yeah, let me just stab things for fun. Like, I think she would do fencing. I think Alex would be great at, like, some kind of relay, like a 400-meter relay.
Oh.
I just feel like running, you know, it fits. Naturally, I would say Supergirl could do gymnastics, because...
Duh.
She's already flying, so...
You know. And then for... Ooh. I think I'd probably pick, like, javelin or pole vaulting for Brainy, just because...
That's actually a pretty good idea. He would have the physics of how to throw it at a certain length or speed to get... Yeah, I think that would work.
Now, is there a nap-related sport that Nia could do?
I was thinking about that. I was like, what could Dreamer do? But then she would dream in the future, and I don't know if that'd be categorized as cheating.
That's got to be some form of cheating, right?
Maybe. But, you know, if anything, bobsled. Just kidding.
She's on the
team. It's winter,
event.
Yeah.
Let's see. What about Martian Manhunter? Do we know what sport maybe?
Ooh.
What would Space Dad do?
Would he have to do something very intellectual to use his mind powers? He has a lot of mind abilities.
I've suddenly blanked on what sports exist in the summer games. So
maybe you would do like some of the skateboarding. Flipping in the air.
That would be so sick.
Could you imagine?
Like, where's John? Oh, he's at the rink.
Yeah. John just comes in with like a cool guy, like sunglasses and a skateboard under his arm.
Wow. They should have made an episode out of that.
I mean, they never took our pitches is the thing. There's probably a reason, but...
Paula says she sees John playing table tennis. I mean...
That feels right.
I could see some strategic things that, you know, he would have to have some strategery that would go into the table tennis.
Jean could do swimming.
Yeah.
That feels right. Just be like, no, stop. And then he just books it, you know?
They're all kind of cheating, but just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Listen, a little zest. A little zest is no problem.
Yeah, I think all of the superheroes, they might have to, I don't know if they would constrain them somehow to make it fair for the other competitors, but they could be cheating.
Katie McGraw
That's
of the
nice.
club says, Nia for surfing, she can predict the waves and nap on the beach. It sounds like a perfect day.
That's perfect. That's perfect. And somebody else said, yeah, no, it's totally Brainy for table tennis.
Yeah, I don't know if Nia could do anything in the water, though, because didn't she stop a tsunami one time?
She did. That's true. That's true.
She did.
Maybe she would be the champion swimmer.
Well, speaking of gymnastics, Laurie, we wanted to ask you about your gymnastics leotards that you have. Did you design these? Was this something that you designed after superheroes?
Yeah, so, I mean, it kind of feels like I'm cheating by saying this, but they are Marvel leotards.
It's okay, we're all friends here.
But yeah, I just find superheroes so cool and inspiring. Me and my brother, that was our thing growing up. It's the thing that bonded us, and, you know, I just thought it'd be really cool to go into a meet season and find a lot of inspiration from the people that I see on screen. So it's inspired by them. Obviously, they're not exact replicas of, you know, everybody's suits or anything. I just wanted to pull their colors and summon them, if you will.
Yeah, that's really cool. I noticed there is no Supergirl in there, so I don't know. Is that something that you would ever want to work in the future?
That would be cool. I think the reason why I didn't do it was because I feel like the El Mayara logo is kind of trademarked. I don't know if I'm allowed to do that.
That's
Good
true.
question.
Maybe something in primary colors. You know.
Yeah,
There you go.
you know?
Around it.
I'll just pick any one of the Olympic Leos, and I'll be like, that one. That one's the Supergirl Leo.
Yeah, because you do have a picture of Wonder Woman.
Wonder
wearing
Woman.
a Wonder Woman leotard. So would you tell us about that?
Yeah, so basically for tour, we have Jordan Childs, who was on, last year's Olympic team. And she did her floor routine to Wonder Woman, and her number on tour was obviously superhero based. And so we had one leotard, the one that I'm wearing, which is based off of the classic Wonder Woman outfit. And then there's one where it's an updated one, and it's like Gal Gadot's. The leotard has golden bands on the forearms and stuff. It's pretty cool, actually. So that was a lot of fun. That was one of my favorite numbers on tour.
Yeah, if you're going to do Wonder Woman, you got to have the gauntlets, the bracelets. It's very, very important.
Totally.
Well, speaking of superheroes, since you're such a big fan of the Supergirl TV series, we were curious, and this is something that we ask everybody who comes on Supergirl Radio for the first time. How did you meet the character of Supergirl? Well, when was the first time you had ever maybe heard about Supergirl or saw Supergirl? Do you remember that time?
I do, actually. I remember the exact day and episode and everything because, I don't know, it's just how my brain works. But my brother, that pre-mentioned, is also a huge superhero fan, and he was watching Arrow. And as he was watching Arrow, he was watching Flash, and then there was a crossover, and he thought Supergirl was cool, so he started watching Supergirl. And I sat down on the couch once and was like, oh, I'm gonna hang out with you, be on my phone, whatever. And he was watching the Rain episode.
Oh.
Which is a huge, spoiler, but I kind of sat down and watched, and I was on my phone, and I'd peek up, and then next thing I know, my phone is down. I'm like, what's happening? Why isn't she getting up? Who is that character? And I was hooked. I wanted to watch it, and so I did.
You came in at a good time.
I watched it many times.
That's one of the great episodes of the series, so that's a perfect episode to start with.
Yeah, it's a pretty great episode.
That is awesome. So I think that answers one of the questions that we had in the chat. Katie McGrath Book Club was asking how and why did you start watching Supergirl? So I think we got that question answered. So very cool. Rain, one of my personal favorite episodes. That was the only time I had a water cooler moment at work. Somebody the next day knew I had watched, was watching Supergirl and had a podcast about it. And they were like, did you see that episode last night? I was like, okay, hi. I didn't know
That's
you watched
cool.
Supergirl, so that was pretty fun. So now we're just going to let you just totally dig into your Supergirl fandom. So we're just going to ask you a bunch of questions about your love for the show. So the first one is, who is your favorite character on the Supergirl TV series?
That's a hard one. So I'm going to completely exclude the Danvers sisters because they're the main characters and they are my favorite. But Lena.
It's okay if the answer is Lena.
It's the three of them. I love the three of them so much. Also, I love Brainy.
Brainy's so great.
Brainy writes. Love Brainy. Dreamers. Yeah, they're all iconic. Honestly, they're really great. But if I had to only pick one, I would pick Lena probably.
So what is it about Lena that makes you such a fan of that character?
Mommy issues. I don't know. I just think she's really badass, and I love the fact that she's smart and is able to hold her own and is very headstrong. But I also love the dynamic of Lena and Kara. Obviously, that's why it's so hard to pick a favorite because I think I see myself a lot in Kara or vice versa, and I think I have traits of both. I'm like, nice. I do that.
You're like a Kara with Lena rising. It's kind of
that's what it feels like. And an Alex sun.
Exactly.
Or no, wait, it would be a Kara sun, a Lena rising, an Alex moon, if you will.
You can tell I know nothing about astrology. I just wanted to work that joke in. I was like,
feels right.
It feels
They're
right,
all in my chart.
Exactly.
To kind of go maybe in the opposite direction, you talked about some of the heroes on the show, but who is your favorite villain if you had to pick one?
It would definitely be a tie between Rain, because there was just so much depth and, like, the idea that we could get Sam and Rain, and we had, like, Sam's home life and Ruby and all these things, and then we get to see her as this villain, and she doesn't, like, I loved the depth of the arc, the character arc. I just thought it was fantastic. And then Nixley. I love Nixley. I think, she's very, very cunning, very manipulative, but also kind of has a heart, which is my favorite type of villain. I'm like, you have feelings. You get a little sad sometimes, don't you? So when she started, protecting the little one from Lex, I was like, I like you.
She's not all bad. She's just mostly bad.
Just mostly bad. Just worse than the average human, that's all.
Exactly.
Morgan,
Who among us has
it was understood. I understood why.
A giant cat that is going to destroy downtown.
Yeah, she could have done anything. Granted, she did do a kryptonite dragon, but a cat.
But she started with the cat. So
she started with the cat.
Right?
It was. She did her best. She's doing her best.
She is.
Should we ask about the Rorschach test that we've been asking everybody about? Laurie, what do you why do you think Lex and Nixley had lizard faces in the Supergirl finale?
That is one of the plot holes.
Figure it out.
I have no understanding. Like, I remember, like, my partner and I were watching Supergirl, and they just started turning into lizards, and I was like, why did you do that? What was that? What are you doing? No, go back. It just didn't make any sense to me that they were like, we are so powerful, we're lizards now. I'm like, Spider-Man.
The ultimate form, which is lizard person, apparently.
Apparently so. We are below them.
We were hoping you would have the answer, because we don't know either.
Yeah, I don't know.
We've been questing for this answer, and I feel like one day, far in the future, we will find it.
We will.
One day, far, far in the future, we may get an answer to that.
We'll finally understand why lizard people happen.
Decades into the future, the showrunners are going to look at us and be like, do you guys want to know why?
Well, and hopefully it will make sense. It would be disappointing if we waited for a long time and then we got the answer and I was like, what? This still doesn't make any sense.
I gotta say, with how some of the episodes went down, I would not be surprised if the explanation just, did not match the weight of the scene, if you will.
It's very generous.
Yes, that is a generous way to describe that, because I'm interpreting that as you also had trouble understanding the totem storyline. Would that be a fair assessment?
I did. Yeah, I like the general idea of it. I thought that was really cool to have these items that you have to go and get, but as it was happening, I was kind of like, what are the rules for this? They would just go and break the rules, or be like, no, this is what happens. Brainy has suddenly found this magical thing, and I'm like, why didn't he do that 4 episodes ago? He's Brainy. Or, Kara absorbing the sun only to be like, you know what, psych, I was in a silly, goofy mood. I guess I'm not gonna do that. But with no effect on the humans whatsoever. Supergirl, stop. And she was like, alright, twist my arm.
Fine.
Didn't have any consequences whatsoever for doing that.
But I still love the show. Listen, if you're a Supergirl fan, there are just some things that you gotta be okay with,
You gotta kind of learn to roll with the punches there.
Yeah.
So speaking of episodes and storylines, do you have a favorite episode or storyline from the show?
I do. I think it's 421. It's when Kara basically gets killed by a daughter. And you just have Alex like, take the grass!
Yes!
Take the grass, Kara! Oh my god, it broke my heart. But from the very beginning of, Red Daughter being like, I have kryptonite. What are you gonna do? And then to shooting her arm, to ending up at Jean's house, to feeling all these feelings about Alex not knowing who she is. And I just thought the arc, that entire episode, fantastic. Chef's kiss. Also, I love Red Daughter. I want her protected at all costs.
She's so great.
She's so great. She's actually a little baby, so if we could not put the entire world on her shoulders, that would be great. Thanks.
Like, just be nice to Red Daughter. Excuse me, she's had to punch a lot of rocks over there.
She literally just wants to have tea with Mikhail. Like, she's not asking for much.
Yeah, and it was really upsetting that she didn't get to reunite with Mikhail. By the
Yeah.
end. I was pulling for that.
I was like, all right, well, I guess she's purple now.
Twist.
So what did you like specifically about Red Daughter in terms of her character, other than her being someone who needs to be protected? What did you like about that storyline?
I did actually like the idea of nature versus nurture type, like if Supergirl was raised in a different environment, how would she think and react? And as someone who is, like, I screenwrite just for fun, I love acting, I'm trying to go to school for acting and whatnot, like, I liked being able to break down why they did that, because at first I was kind of like, alright, she's in Kazmia, why? But, you know, the idea that, okay, if she was raised somewhere else, if it was from Lex or whatever it was, but it's also nice knowing that, that good will prevail in the end, and that if it's Kara, her heart is always going to be pure no matter where she comes from. So I thought that was pretty neat.
That's interesting to know that you have some desires to write. So we have a question, because we often, Morgan and I will often pitch stories about certain episodes. They never come to fruition. I don't.
They're
know
not
that we
taking
got,
our calls. They were never taking our calls on that show.
Yeah.
I don't think we got anything that we pitched on the show. So we're curious if you wanted to, like, if you had the power, if they came to you and said, Laurie, we need you to come up with something for the show, write whatever you want to, what would you do? What would you want to do for an episode?
So here's the thing. I have no original ideas because all my ideas were turned into fan fiction. So I've then in turn read all of them. And I think my top picks would have to be, you know, Supergirl in training, this idea that, like, I like Supercorp. I think they're great. Very special place in my heart. And the idea that this kid comes back into the past from the future and is like, I'm your daughter and I need to get home, and both Lena and Kara have to work together to bring her back to her time. Incredible plot.
I love the Sailor Moon aspect of that as well. Like, I'm your daughter from the future.
Yeah, like what a great plot, and it was so entertaining to read. So between that one, there was another one where I don't remember what it was, like Arctic Station or something, where Lex basically sends them to a completely deserted planet with no resources or anything, and, you know, Lena and Kara are fighting and they have to figure out a way to get back home. Sick plot point. It would have been fantastic to have that during, you know, their little bickering moments, because trauma bonds us, doesn't it?
I love that as like a bottle episode. It's just the two of them on the planet and they have to work out their
I loved the bottle episode. I thought the bottle episode was so cool.
Yeah, I think that would have been a great episode of TV, just to see, just to break it down, just two characters trying to work together to get out of a situation. I would have been into that.
I love that you mentioned fan fiction, because I see that, like, we saw that you are into it and you read it. Do you have any, like, particular favorite ones besides the ones you just mentioned that you read or that you liked? I think it's so cool that you are that you read fanfic and you're into it.
Yeah, well, that's also one of the things that's, like, for some reason it was like this forbidden word, like, oh, you read fan fiction? What a weirdo. No, like, these people are taking the show, creating an extension of it, and it's great writing. Some of it is, I'm like, this is what should be on TV. This is, like, mind-blowing, you know, but it's people just being creative with characters that we already know and love. Why not get an extension of that? It's like reading a book and wanting more. Surprise, you have more. So that's my take on fan fiction. But I think in terms of favorites, I would honestly have to go into my bookmarks and just check. Yeah, I'm a big fan of, like, angst and comfort, or hurt / comfort. So that's my forte. That's
so you like
favorite.
a little angst in it too.
Oh yeah, when there's a big problem, like, oh no, Kara's in trouble, what are we gonna do? And Lena's like, I'm coming with you, like,
Lena puts on her business leather jacket and she's out the door.
And she's strutting with her high heels. Like, where she's going, I don't know, but she's going.
She's going to get there. Yeah, well, that's cool. Well, maybe if you want to send us some of those links to some of those fanfics, we'll put them in our show notes so people can check them out if they want to.
Yeah.
If we can have a Laurie Hernandez recommendation list. If you,
oh my gosh.
A reading list.
A reading list if you'd like to do that. And speaking of writing, we also have a question from the chat from Bryn, who asks if you could rewrite the finale, what would you add or remove from it?
Ooh.
Any thoughts on that?
I have many thoughts. I like the idea that Brainy stayed and was like, you know what, the future's not set. I will marry Nia Null, and I'm not going because I'm happy right now in the present. I think that sends a fantastic message. Like, sometimes the present is fantastic. We don't have to fast forward. Right here, right now is great. Love that for him. Monel coming back out of nowhere. I think that was the episode before the finale, or when they were fighting Nixley, and suddenly, like, the Legion is here. Thank God, they're gonna save the day. I'm like, no, they had it. They were fine.
The show is Supergirl. I feel like she had it covered.
Like, I think she's fine. I think she almost absorbed the sun. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that she can take care of Lex and Nixley, aka the lizards. You know? So there's that. I love the idea of Kara revealing her identity. I think that's great. I think, obviously it sends so many different messages. I like the way that it ended, a very open-ended type of thing. But I'm also, once again, Supercorp. I do wish that they, dove into that a little bit more. I could go on for hours about the fact that this is one of the coolest and greatest slow burns that we've seen in a very long time, because with TV shows, you never know when they're going to end. And so this one had an ending point, and she was there from, season 3? Season 2, all the way till the end. And I'm like, if a character's been there for that long, has been through so much with this main character, we just don't see that a lot, so.
Yeah, so do you have, a favorite Supercore moment in the show?
My favorite one would probably be the one where, Mixaspitalik comes in and is like, oh, you want to rewrite your future because you messed up? We can do that. Let's look at all these options of the ways that you can save Lena. And then let's not bring it up ever again in the future and not tell her that you did any of this. That sounds like a great idea. But that one scene where it's like, well, tell us Supergirl's identity. And she's like, I plead the fifth. Why? Why did you do that?
Our legal consultants were not real happy about that representation of courtroom dramas.
Yeah. I'm like, the fandom really took that one and ran with it.
But that is a great episode, the 100th episode. It's a Super Life is the title of it.
It's a Super Life. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole 100th episode was about the two of them.
Was about the two of them. I just think that's a little fruity. That's all.
we also got Metallo Lena in that one, didn't we, Rebecca?
Yes, that was my dream come true to see full on Lena Luthor being evil and awful. Loved her so much, yeah.
And
listen,
so much look too.
I support women's rights. I also support women's wrongs. So I believe justice for Metallo Lena. I think she should have reappeared. That's all.
I mean, she did try to kill Supergirl, and she created an army of Hope robots.
But did she have her reasons?
She did. Listen, she has no heart. You can excuse this.
Laurie and I.
It's waived.
There's a backstory there, I think.
Yeah, she doesn't even have a heart. They took it. It's not her fault. She's gonna murder everyone.
You judge so quickly.
What would I do in this position?
Can't judge it until you know the whole story, I guess. That's a great episode. And we also did have we were going to ask this as well, but since Jen from the chat posed it, what did you think about how the show ended? We just talked about the 100th episode that was kind of towards the end of the show, but we finally did get the end of the series. with season 6. So were you happy with how things ended for all of our characters in the storyline?
I mean, for the most part, I think they tried to put a bow on things and wrap things up for each character. I kind of wish... I don't know. Well, I have mixed feelings. It was an okay ending. I think I just expected a little bit more, especially more angst. That's what we're missing. More angst, more Supergirling around, more drama, and then also ending with the wedding of Alex and Kelly. Like, adorable. Love that for the two of them. That was wonderful to me. And they have little Esme, who's adorable.
Yes.
So cute.
Adorable. Would die for any of these characters, but that child. I would pull a Nixley for her, okay?
Esme was a big hit for all the Supergirl fans we know, and with us, Esme was a big hit. So that's a great thing to point out. I don't know. I felt some angst in the final season of Supergirl, but I don't know that was what the show wanted me to feel. I just felt a personal angst while watching.
Going on.
I actually felt targeted angst.
Yes.
They said, we know what's going to make her feel uncomfortable. It didn't feel like intentional angst. I feel like it was, I feel that it could have ended a little bit better, but it wasn't bad. I wanted a little bit more.
No, I agreed. I think that's a fair thing to think. It had some solid moments, I think, especially in the finale episode. But I always wanted more, but I always feel like I want too much. So that's
that also feels like me.
Yeah.
I watched this and I'm like, could have been more. And meanwhile, like, cars flying across the globe to find Esme. Alex is doing everything possible. Can we talk about the random angsty sister moment that they threw in there?
Oh, please.
Yes.
Please. What are your thoughts?
What was the reason? What was the I don't know. You wrote that in there. Like, I usually feel like there's always a little domino effect from these things, or like something big happens from a small thing like that, and it kind of just simmered away, and I was like, our sisters, this show is based around, the Danvers sisters, and it felt forced. Because that's not how they do things. We've watched their dynamic for so long, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I think we all wanted a little bit more Danvers sisters in the finale without them being quite so angry at each other.
Yeah, I also wanted more couch scenes, but that's selfish of me, so...
This conversation is very validating for me.
It is, actually, right?
Like, it's not just us. This may be a fandom-wide thing that maybe all of us picked up on this.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, that's good to know. Well, Laurie, can we ask you some Supergirl-related Dancing with the Stars questions?
Yes.
Since you did such a wonderful job on Dancing with the Stars. My personal favorite dance was the Willy Wonka one. I thought that was great.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Really, really wonderful. So, since you have dancing experience, we were curious about what you thought of Kara and Barry dancing in the Flash's episode of Duet. Do you have any thoughts about that?
The Music Meister episode was one of my favorite episodes. If I couldn't pick 421, I would pick this one. I thought the plot was super cool, and I thought they did a great job dancing. I think both of them would have done fantastic on the show.
Yeah, they did a great job. They had a great little song, a little duet, as the title suggests, and it was kind of a going back in time, sort of 1940s film musical. So that's right up my alley. So that's a great episode. So I'm glad to hear that a dancing professional thought they did a good job.
What can I say? I'm a professional. I danced for 11 weeks.
One, so that gives you clout.
Just a bit. I had a great partner.
Well, you did a good job, and if people listening or watching haven't watched them, go check out the dances between Laurie and Val. Right, Val was your partner.
Yeah.
Tremendous. So Laura has a question in the chat related to Dancing with the Stars. Which Supergirl cast member, we did talk about Kara, Melissa Benoist, but which of the Supergirl cast would you like to see compete on Dancing with the Stars?
Okay, so we're saying like the human beings, not the characters. Right?
I don't know. I kind of want to get both.
Let's do both.
Yeah.
I think Brainy would do fantastic.
Ooh.
I really do. And then, naturally I would say Kara, but also I think she's secretly, well, not secretly, she's a little clumsy, so Lena would probably, work best. And then outside of that, Melissa would crush it. We know Melissa would crush it.
Yeah. Yeah, that is something that would be really fun to see if they they could actually do something that they did do some dancing on the show. In the finale, especially at the wedding, there was some dancing.
Oh yeah, there were some moves.
Yeah, those were some moves. It was adorable. It was very in character for all of them. I thought it was cute.
Yeah, they had a good time dancing in their own silly ways. Laurie, we have a segment of our podcast that we like to call Lena Luthor Boardroom or Ballroom. Yes. And for some reason, why am I not able to find the intro music? Oh, I am very upset with myself. I only see the outro. What? Yes. Did I delete it by accident? We'll have to put this in post. What have I done?
We'll have to do it in post.
We'll have to do it in post. We can do the outro music, so we can just introduce it here. I don't know what happened. I have mistakenly deleted it. I'll have to re-upload it. But we have a segment of the podcast called Lena Luthor Boardroom or Ballroom, where we talk about Lena Luthor's wardrobe. It basically stemmed from the idea in season 3 that she was wearing outfits that weren't maybe for the occasion. She wasn't dressing. She would wear like really fancy gala dresses to work and things like that, wearing open-toed shoes in the lab.
She said, "I own this building. I can wear whatever I want, and I choose not to wear sweats." I was like, God, okay.
So we were curious if you wanted to talk about Lena Luthor's wardrobe, because we noticed on your TikTok you had a little bit of a Lena Luthor suit that you were showing off, which actually does look a lot like Lena Luthor. I mean, really, pulling it off.
Thank you.
I feel like that's a very Lena look.
It's the Luthor suit. It felt right.
Did you feel very powerful in it? Like you could take over a company?
I did. I've done some events with that suit, and every time I put it on, I'm like, oh my God, do I own a Fortune 500 company? Is this a joke?
Am I the boss here?
Am I the drama? It's me, isn't it?
Do you have a favorite Lena Luthor look? A suit or
I
dress,
do.
Whatever she was wearing?
I do, and I feel slightly ashamed that I could rattle this so quickly out of the top of my head, but the episode that Melissa directed where she's in red and you have the lace, turtleneck and the burgundy
Victorian ghost suit.
Yes.
The Victorian ghost suit is one of my favorites as well.
I was like, what are you doing? Stop.
It looked like she would go into a haunted house, and there she'd be, but she'd be in a boardroom pointing to the number projections or something.
She'd be like, ooh, a PowerPoint.
The line's going up.
Oh my goodness, stocks. Ooh.
Yeah,
This is really random, but sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying, I feel like in this day and age, Monel would be the type of guy to come back and be like, hey, have you heard of crypto?
Oh, Monel owns at least one NFT. That is for sure.
At least one, and it's his own selfie.
It's him as a gorilla, and he loves it.
Yeah.
It's his Twitter profile pic.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had the good fortune of asking Katie McGrath, or I should say Morgan did, of asking Katie McGrath what her favorite look, and this was a while ago, so maybe she now would pick the Victorian ghost suit, but she liked the dress from the gala in the episode 4 Good from season 3. It's like a black dress, a shoulders out, of course. Shoulders out.
Was that the one where Kara's like, "Don't call me sweetheart" to the guy?
Yes. That's the one.
I know which episode you're talking about.
We know the dress.
We know the dress. Yeah, that one's a meme within me and my friend group.
Yeah, that is when I think of Lena Luthor attire, that's the dress I usually think about.
It's always it is. It's funny because when we were all asking her questions at the table and she said that dress, everybody at the table went, uh-huh. And she's like, see, you all know it. You all know it.
Yeah. She's like, listen, I know I look good. It's okay. You can admit it.
Although that dress was appropriate for the occasion.
It was.
Yeah. So that's good. Well, I guess we'll wrap up. We have outro music to wrap up Lena Luthor Boardroom or Ballroom, so we'll play that.
And this has been Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom.
And Laurie, something that we noticed while we were stalking your social media pages, I hope that's okay, is that you have worn I Don't Mind shirts. Which is a foundation that Chris Wood, speaking of Mon-El, speak of the devil, but Chris Wood in real life, I guess, has created and founded I Don't Mind, which is a mental health organization. So could you tell us the background of why you're sporting these shirts here?
Yeah, so when I had first heard about I Don't Mind, I just thought it was an incredible company. I liked the idea of being able to wear things like that, and I got one, that sweater that's in the middle on the right. I got it because it just looked so simple, and I started wearing it around, and people started asking me, what's your shirt about? And I liked the idea of being able to talk about it, without it feeling awkward or weird, talking about mental health, and then eventually we hopped on a call, and I was actually able to create my own shirt line, and there's like a sketch of flowers coming out of like a stenciled side profile, and it says grow as you go, and that's kind of the angle we were going for, and we got to do a whole interview and everything. It was wonderful, but I really liked it.
That's really cool. So can people go and purchase your shirts?
I don't know if they're still selling. They might be, but also they might not be.
All right,
it was a while ago.
We'll look for those. All right, so we will check that out and see whether or not they are still there. We'll take a few more questions from the chat, but then we have a video question that was sent in to us. So this can be maybe like a lightning round, couple of questions. So Paula says, ask her about her playlist. Do you have playlists that you want to talk about real quick?
Yeah, so I have a Cara Danvers playlist, which is basically my own curated happy playlist. If you were to make me play all my happy songs, it would be that one. I secretly am Cara Danvers. So, kidding. So I have that playlist. I have a Luthor playlist, and I have a Supergirl playlist because that feels right.
Are those things that we can share with everybody?
Yeah, those are on Spotify. They should be open for everybody to find, but I can find a link too.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, we'll put those in our video description and our audio podcast show notes.
I love a good Spotify playlist.
They're very entertaining.
I'm curious about the Luthor playlist.
Me too.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah. And also, Katie McGraw Book Club wants to know, because we don't know, and so this is another question we always like to ask people, because maybe somebody has the answer. Do you know who the head of Leviathan is?
Literally not one thought in this little mind. Not one idea in my tiny brain. I have no idea who's behind or the head of Leviathan. I know they introduced, was it Gamma or Gemma, and like that whole squad of people, and they were like, this is who's behind. And I was like, no, they're not. No, you're lying. And it turns out we were right. So I have no idea.
Oh, well, one day we're going to figure it out. But I guess today is not that day.
Today is not that day.
Yeah, so maybe one day in the future. So the reason that we actually had you on, aside from the fact that you're awesome, but we had got
anytime.
We got a suggestion from one of our listeners, Quinn, who is also a Supergirl Radio Patreon supporter. So if you'd like to support Supergirl Radio on the Patreon, go to patreon.com/Supergirl Radio if you want to do that. But since Quinn is a boardroom boss, one of the parts of the level is that she can suggest an episode for us to do. And she is a big fan of you, and she said, "Hey, you guys should have her on because she's a big Supergirl fan, and she would want to talk about it." So, so we reached out to Laurie's folks to set this up, and that was because of Quinn. So. We invited Quinn to submit a video question since she's such a big fan. So we have a video for you to watch, and then we'll see if we can answer some of Quinn's questions.
Hi, my name is Quinn Schuyler, and I am writing in or videoing in because I'm currently hiding from my toddler. He's a most wonderful part of my life. But he's definitely why I can't stay up late anymore on a Tuesday night and join you guys. But I want to say thank you to Rebecca and Morgan and Supergirl Radio for letting me come by to say hi to you, Laurie Hernandez. Come on now, that's really cool. Thank you so much for coming on here. I really am excited to hear the rest of this interview when it comes out. I've really loved seeing your true fangirling over our lovely little Supergirl show, especially our favorite gal pals. And you've had such great interactions with the fans, and it makes me very happy. I'm a physical therapist by trade, so I definitely find the Supergirl fandom and the fics and the show itself and the comics to be a very big part of my escapism for my sanity over the years. What has been your favorite international competition or Olympic experience? Thoughts on Sasha Calle's upcoming Supergirl in The Flash? And who are some superwomen in your life that you draw inspiration from and support from, if you will? And lastly, this is one of my favorite escapisms, so I have to ask, and inquiring minds elsewhere must know, what are some of your favorite fan fictions? Thank you again for letting me drop by, guys. Looking forward to the interview.
Whoa. That was really sweet. I'm gonna pull up AO3 real quick just so I could, we're gonna pull up the history. We're gonna see what we've found.
We need an answer. It seems to be a question everybody wants to know.
It's a hot topic here.
Yeah, this is gonna take half a second, but until then, I think I'm really excited for Sasha's Supergirl, just because any extra of Supergirl that I can get, I will take it. I will take all of the crumbs, and I think this is going to be really awesome, and I think she's going to crush it, honestly. It's going to be really exciting. Some really cool stuff. What was the first question?
Sasha Calle, we don't know too much about her yet, but we do have a suit from her, so we'll have to get more details on her portrayal of Supergirl. But Quinn, her first question was, what was your favorite international competition or Olympic experience?
Ooh, my favorite international competition would probably have to be... I went to a couple places. I think Japan was one of my favorites. We got to compete in Yokohama. It was me and my teammate, and I got to compete there twice. Once when I was 13 and once when I was 15. And when I was 13, the meet didn't go that well. But when I was 15, I ended up hitting all of my events and staying on the equipment, which is a good thing. And you just get to meet so many people from around the world and connect with them. And a lot of them you see at other competitions, so it's like seeing your friends from across the globe. And yeah, the culture and the people, they're just very kind over there. So, yeah.
That's awesome. It's good to see new places and meet new people. So that's good. That's good to hear that you've had those good experiences. And speaking of people in your life, Quinn also wanted to know, who are the superwomen in your life?
No, naturally I'd have to say my mom, just because she is this little light, this little 4'11" light of a human. That's why I'm not very tall. It's okay. I have respect. But yeah, her heart is just so big. She was a social worker and a therapist, and so mental health was a big thing growing up. I was literally trained to talk about my feelings by the time I flew out of the womb. So thanks, Mom. But yeah, of course, my mom, my sister, my partner, my agent is pretty badass and pretty awesome. So shout out Cheryl. Because there are moments where when you're doing different events and whatnot, and you need someone to stick up for you, and she's that person for me. So yeah, I got a lot of pretty great superwomen in my life.
That's great. That's great. Well, thank you for sharing those answers. And I think I don't know if we want to come back after Snap Judgments, maybe. And do you have recommendations? Oh, maybe we've got some recommendations now for the fanfics.
Okay, there's a little part of me that's like, you should not say this. Maybe
you don't have to say anything you don't want to say.
Maybe you don't have to tell the people what you're reading.
You don't. You really don't
but also, if I had to pick one with no very little description whatsoever. Okay, there's two. There's one where it's like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but reincarnated as Carl and Lena, and they're like spies and whatnot, and they have no idea, but they're, yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love spy stuff.
Super cool. Love spies. And then the main one, I think my all-time favorite would have to be Oath in Office, where Kara gets assigned as like... Wait, this sounds crazy coming out of my mouth, but long story short, Lena's the president and Kara's assigned to security detail.
I love
that premise.
I love it. I love that journey for both of them.
Wow.
Especially for Lena, who is the president.
I'm sweating. I cannot believe I've just told an entire video about this. But, yeah. Great. Read them only if you're allowed. I don't know.
I think both premises sound pretty good. It's a good start for a story.
Solid premises, definitely.
Yeah.
So those are some recommendations if you want to check them out.
I just like that somebody in our chat was like, I love that one. Like they know exactly what one you're talking about.
I don't know if it's worse or better to hear, I love that one too. What are we doing? Like...
All right. Well, since we've gotten as many questions as we can from the live chat, and we took Quinn's questions and we answered some of our questions. So shout out to Quinn. Thanks for the suggestion of having Laurie on, and hopefully you got all your questions answered. I guess the last thing we've got to do is we got to play a game we call Snap Judgments, which is named after one of our favorite characters, Snapper Carr. Which, if you don't know about his comic book history, you need to look into that because it's wacko and crazy. So we like to play a little game called Snap Judgments, and we will play an intro video so that you'll know how to play. In the game of Snap Judgments, each person is presented with two options, but must only choose one. First instincts are recommended, and explanations are unnecessary.
Okay.
I'm ready.
All right. I like to see that. You seem very prepared. Okay. Our first Snap Judgment is, which Supergirl character would make a great gymnast? Alex Danvers or Brainiac 5?
Brainiac 5.
Nice.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go Brainiac 5 because he like I said earlier, he can calculate physics and he can hang off of buildings and do things in slow motion. I think he
His
would.
form is great in the show too. He does a backflip at least once. Yeah, look at him standing on. Listen, Alex can absolutely do it. It's not that she can't. I just think Brainy would get a higher score because look at how he's standing. It's great.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I think Brainy definitely. I think Brainy takes this one.
Although, we stand Brainy in this house.
Although Alex did, escape a drowning situation using her own pants, so that's
also one of my favorite episodes. That's a crazy episode. Angst.
So much angst on that one. Yeah, I reference that one all the time because it's one of the coolest things I've seen a television character do is save themselves with their own pants. Okay, our next Snap Judgment is, if chess was an event at the Summer Olympics, which Luthor do you think would win, Lex or Lena?
I say Lena because I love Lena and I think she could absolutely do it, but that is a hard one because it's Lex and it's chess. So that's a little tough, but I'd be rooting for Lena. I think she can do it.
Yeah, I think canonically in the show, Lena's supposed to be better at chess than Lex.
That was going to be my explanation for my choice of Lena, is that the show told us that little Lena was better at chess than Lex. So, in your face, Lex.
That's deal with it.
Yeah, so that is probably the right answer, but there's no right or wrong answer in Snap Judgment.
I see, Rebecca, your note that people are campaigning to get chess included in the 2024 Paris Olympics.
Yeah, I did not know that.
That's cool. That's a lot of mental gymnastics. I think it should be done.
I think I'm in support of it. I think.
Listen, after Queen's Gambit, I think we would all watch it. Okay.
Right. Right, as long as all the chess players had to dress in like vintage fashion, like it was Mad Men. I don't know why that would be a requirement, but I feel like
You have to dress like a Luthor.
Yes, yes.
Have to. Deductions if you're not in a 3-piece suit.
Where is your lace ruff?
Where? Where?
Okay, and we have a snap judgment from Mark that I hope is not indecipherable for you. Warner, because I just skimmed it. So Warner Brothers Discovery has decided they want to produce a TV show based as a spinoff of Supergirl Radio, which is this podcast. Would you rather see Boardroom or Ballroom on TLC with a strong what not to wear vibe, or someone from HGTV, probably the Property Brothers because they're everywhere already, doing a national city real estate show?
Boardroom or Ballroom? Absolutely. I would watch the hell out of that.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go Boardroom or Ballroom, especially if it's about Lena's wardrobe. I mean, I guess it could be about anybody's clothing, but I think specifically Lena, I would be in support of that.
I would love a Lena version of a Boardroom or Ballroom that's like what not to wear, and they just bring Lena somebody wearing something completely normal, and she's like, this won't do. And then she just like, it depends on how far along the witch spectrum she is, whether or not she's getting them shoulders out, or she's just covering them in scarves. But
or if she's like, "Aw, you left my Louboutins at home," like.
Oh, is that what you're wearing?
That's not my color. Put it back.
Just kind of like a quietly judgmental what not to wear, where she's just like, ooh.
On the phone and just.
No.
That has a lot of entertainment value.
I think that's the clear winner.
We also have one more snap judgment from the chat from Tiana.
Oh yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
So what spin-off show would you want Kara and Alex in? Which spin-off show would you want more? Kara and Alex in high school, a drama, or Kara and Lena in the future with the Legion of Superheroes?
That's a hard one. Because I loved Midvale. I loved that episode. I thought it was adorable. I would say Kara and Lena in the future, because then you can go back in time again and see Alex and Kara at high school.
Both worlds. Have it all.
We're just going to keep messing up the timeline, folks. We're just going to keep making little plot holes because we can.
It doesn't matter.
Oh my god, crisis.
I don't know if you want to get into that.
Also our reaction to it.
Yeah.
I just, like, it was just a lot. I don't even know where to start, to be quite honest with you. I don't, like, Lex coming in out of nowhere and then being like, he is a necessity to mankind. I'm like, no, he's not. Burn him. He can go. We'll be just fine. We'll be okay, I promise.
My
Crisis
favorite
was
part
very
of Crisis
frustrating.
was that, like, afterwards, anything could be or could not be true about the show.
They literally were like, you know what? We're gonna set up this show so that we can literally do whatever we want because we can't remember the rules from season 1 through, 5, 6?
And then you'd be like, wait, I'm sorry, in this other episode, and they were like, it's not true anymore because of Crisis, baby.
They were like, that doesn't exist. Lena works her entire life to get, Elcor, like, this thing that has become a fundraising organization that is humanitarian, and then, like, we sneeze and look up and Lex is back running the entire thing and the DEO while we're at it. Like, they said, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna ruin all her progress. But that was also the point.
I also
you know what? She's a witch.
What they thought about that turn, because I thought that was one of the funnier and more random things that happened in season 6.
I was like, we ran out and we've brought in Merlin. we have hit a plateau, and we need one of the characters to have something that's gonna save them all. And instead of coming up with a solution, Lena is magical.
Somebody had gotten those Merlin DVDs and had spent a weekend in and was like, I've got a great idea.
They said, let's make her speak Latin.
We know Katie can do it.
The most disappointing thing of that, like, I wasn't disappointed that Lena became a witch, because sure. But the magic,
Sure.
her magic didn't, the whole end of the season was about magic. Nixley was a magical villain, and Lena's magic didn't seem to do a lot against Nixley. You would think that would be the crux of the issue. She would come in, clutch at the end.
You're never gonna guess what I wanted from her having magic. I wanted angst. I just wanted a little bit more. There was the whole plot point of like, but I don't believe in myself. Like, I don't think this is gonna work. And Kara being like, yes, you can. You're gonna do it anyways. And her being like, okay, twist my arm. I love you. Like, for a friend like you, there are no boundaries, I guess.
Lena gets out her big book of spells and is like, all right, I guess.
You're a wizard, Lena. That's what one of the comments just said. But like, you know what? If you're gonna make her a witch, go for it, champ. If I can believe that a Kryptonian flies in National City, boop, boop, and that there's a shapeshifter among us, and that there's a superhero that can like sleep and be like, I know what's gonna happen next, then I sure as hell can believe that Lena is a witch. However, I need a little more doubt, a little more zest, a little more mess-ups to be like, oh no, I went out of control. She said, I went too crazy. I injured the crazy guy, which was Lex, my brother. I am unhinged. I'm like, let's see what you could really do. Like, let's get a little more drama in there for the plot, yeah?
Yeah, we could have gotten more out of the witch storyline, I feel.
God, I sound crazy. I'm realizing when they talk about authors writing things and how they're like kind of like, oh my god, you're making your characters go through so much, and it's me like typing and be like, this is gonna help season 6.
This is the right place to air those grievances or those suggestions and thoughts.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing. I think that's the last Snap Judgment that we have. I don't see anything else in the chat. So we'll wrap up Snap Judgments, and then we'll say goodbye to Laurie. No judgments on your Snap Judgments. All right, well, that is going to do it with for our time with Laurie Hernandez. Thank you so much, Laurie, for spending some time with us and talking about Supergirl and Witch Lena and all kinds of insane things that sound crazy to everyone else, but it sounds completely normal.
But not to us. To us, it's normal.
I'll talk about Supergirl plots to my family and friends, and they're just sitting there with their eyes real wide, like, has she gone outside in a while? Has she interacted with someone who's not her family, you know?
Laurie's got like an idea board to like follow the totem plot line, and she's like pointing it out to people, and they're like, don't know.
I have a whole PowerPoint. I'm like, this is why. Heavy breathing, you know. But yeah, thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Well, good. I'm glad you had a good time. And could you let our listeners and our viewers know how to keep up with you and watch your Lena Luthor TikToks if they want to? How do people catch up with you and follow what you're doing?
Yeah, I think my name on all social media platforms is Laurie Hernandez. Yeah, look at that. Thanks. That was very helpful. You can just go and follow me anywhere. TikTok, I post a lot of random stuff. And if you keep scrolling, you'll find a lot of Supergirl content in there. So, yeah.
And I thought it was really cool that you are an author and that you wrote some books. Can you mention those really quickly?
Yeah, so I have a book called I Got This to Gold and Beyond. It talks about the story on the way to the Olympic Games and everything that happened, all the injuries that I had to go through in order to get there. It's basically just a story of perseverance through the lens of a teenager. And then we have She's Got This, which is it's a book that was illustrated by Nina Mata, as you can see at the bottom there. And it's for the little peanuts out there who want to read about gymnastics, and, you know, it's also nice to see an illustrated little girl who has curly hair. I thought that was a really big deal. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a really great illustration for that book cover. Are there any projects that we need to keep our eyes out for what you're up to?
Honestly, not right now. I'm kind of just free roaming a little bit. I'm hoping to get into the acting world a little more and see if I could write anything that's cool enough to be on screen, but maybe just look out for me on screen one day. I may pop up out of nowhere.
Well, you did some voice acting, I saw. Is that correct?
I did, yeah. It was for Nickelodeon. There was a TV show called Middle School Moguls. I coincidentally played a character named Val, and we only did 4 episodes, but I had so much fun doing that, and I would love to do more animation, so that was pretty great. But yeah.
Yeah, Morgan and I have done a little voice acting, and it is much harder than people think.
It's so fun, though.
It is fun.
It's so cool. I'm like, this is what you guys do?
I have so much respect for the voice actors now. We did some voices for our friend's podcast, and he was like, "Okay, now riff," and I was like,
"Yep."
Just dead silence.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, so your character, she's on a hoverboard that's above a football field, and she's wobbling back and forth on this thing because it's floating on the air, and then she hits a glass wall, and then she slides down. We're gonna need you to do the sound effects of that happening. And I'm like, like, run? Do you want me to? So, gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, it is very difficult, but the good voice actors, the real actors, I think, are the voice actors. So much respect to you that you were able to do that. So let us know if you ever have anything coming up that we can help promote, and we'll keep our eyes out on what you're doing. So that's really cool. Well, again, thank you for joining us. We're going to kick you out now. We're going to play a little video to keep everybody up with DCTV podcasts and some Supergirl radio stuff. But while we're doing that, we'll let you go. But thank you again for being with us and sharing your love.
Thank you so much. This is so fun.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so wonderful to nerd out with you guys.
Well, anytime if you want to come back, you're more than welcome. All right. Well, thank you, Laurie. If you would like to contact Supergirl Radio, you can post a comment on our website at supergirlradio.com. You can email us at supergirlradio@gmail.com. If you'd like to leave us a voicemail, you can call us at 678-718-7252. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram, all at Supergirl Radio. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, Podchaser, and Spotify, where we also have a Spotify playlist that includes music featured on and inspired by the CW's Supergirl TV series. We are listed on DC's fan page, which you can find at dccomics.com/DC-fans. If you like what we do, we encourage you to give us a rating and write us a review on Apple Podcasts. If you enjoy our Supergirl Radio live streams, make sure to subscribe to the DC TV Podcast YouTube channel and hit that notification bell to get notified when we go live and wired. DC TV Podcast also has a TeePublic store, so if you're in need of new DC TV related t-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, onesies, mugs, notebooks, pillows, or stickers, go to supergirlradio.com and click on the TeePublic store link at the top of the page.
Supergirl Radio, Superman and Lois Radio, The Flash Podcast, and Legends of Tomorrow Podcast, Black Lightning Podcast, Batwoman Podcast 2, and Titans and Doom Patrol Podcast just for you. Justice League Dark Podcast, Green Lantern Podcast, Stargirl Podcast, Strange Adventures Podcast, and finally my favorite of the bunch, DC TV After Dark, where you're allowed to say fuck.
We're doing things a little bit out of order for this episode because we wanted to maximize our time with Laurie. So I guess now we're gonna talk about some things and then get into some news. So Morgan, would you like to tell people about the TeePublic store?
I am dying to, honestly. I'm glad you brought it up. Well, since we talked about Lena Luthor suits with Laurie Hernandez, we actually have some Lena Luthor designs of her wearing a suit in the DC TV Podcast TeePublic store.
Yeah, so if you are interested
rocking that suit,
any of those stickers or mugs or t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, if it's winter where you are and you need something warm, the DC TV Podcast TeePublic store is a great place for some Supergirl merch. I think it's okay to say that Morgan and I have been maybe working on some t-shirt ideas.
We're workshopping some stuff.
So we got a great suggestion. I think it was last time in our last episode.
I think it was.
Dr. Nicole Green, I think, suggested a t-shirt idea. And we were like, can we do that?
Can we make it happen?
I think we can do it. So maybe we'll get something new in the TeePublic store coming soon. And I guess we have a pretty big news item. So even if it's I think it's just one news item, but I think we should get to it because it's a pretty big deal. So let's get to
The news.
Oh, it's me.
It is you.
Fun. I was like, Rebecca's taking her sweet time. According to the Hollywood Reporter, Melissa Benoist is near a deal to star in HBO Max's newly ordered drama series, The Girls on the Bus, from executive producers Greg Berlanti, we know him, and Julie Plec. The casting reunites the actress with Berlanti after she spent 6 seasons wearing the cape as the lead of CBS turned the CW's Supergirl. The DC Comics inspired drama wrapped its run in November, with the final season pushed to March of last year in order to accommodate Benoist's pregnancy. Reps for HBO Max and producers for Warner Brothers TV declined comment, as the deal is not officially closed. So The Girls on the Bus is inspired by a chapter of Amy Chozik's, I'm hoping, Chozik's.
That's a good attempt, I think.
It's the best I can do. we all know just pronouncing things is not my strong suit.
It is difficult.
It's based on a chapter of her best-selling book. The comedic, character-driven drama chronicles 4 female journalists who follow every move of a parade of flawed presidential candidates while finding friendship, love, and scandal along the way. Benoist is expected to play one of the 4 central journalists. So that's really cool. Plec and author Chozik are credited as writers on the series and both executive produce. Berlanti and his Berlanti Productions partner, Sarah Schechner, and head of TV, David Madden, also executive produce. Warner Brothers TV, where Berlanti is based with a rich overall deal, is the studio. The casting also extends Benoist's relationship with Warner's, the studio behind Supergirl, and where she set her first overall deal for her launched production company a year ago. It's unclear if Benoist will also be credited as an executive producer, though the odds are safe that she will, given her value to the studio and her deal there. It says the Girls on the Bus had a wild ride to HBO Max. The drama was originally ordered at Netflix in 2019, following a multiple outlet bidding war. Wow, 2019 was before the pandemic even. That was a lifetime ago. That was in the before times. Remember those? The streaming giant quietly dropped Bus during the quarantine portion of the pandemic in 2020. The drama had a production commitment and was beginning to cast when the pandemic hit, and was ultimately dropped as part of the streamer's regime change from Cindy Holland, who bought it, to Bella Bajari, who dropped it. Sources note that the political backdrop of the series was part of the reason Netflix ultimately bailed on the project. The CW picked it up last September and had plans to redevelop the series for its younger focused audience, despite the fact that nearly a full season's worth of scripts had already been completed.
Whoa.
It's unclear how much of the scripts Netflix effectively paid for will be part of the HBO Max incarnation. So
it looks like Melissa Benoist is going to be playing another journalist.
Yes, it does look that way. This one, I think, will do her job, though. I think that's going to be the main difference.
Really, the 6 seasons of Supergirl was just her preparing for this next role.
She's like, I know how to not do this. And now I will do it. No, that sounds really, I think the concept of it could be really fun. The idea of journalists on the road following candidates and reporting the news and having friendships with each other on the political buses and stuff like that. That could be fun. I cannot honestly imagine what the CW version of that would have looked like. So thank you, HBO Max.
Actually, I would watch the CW version. I would want to see what the CW version of that does look like.
What would that be? I don't know. We could have had it all. We could have found out.
This concept reminds me. Do you remember there was a TV show on ABC called Pan Am a long time ago?
I do remember.
It had what's her name? Christina Ricci. I think Margot Robbie was on it. It was actually
Margot Robbie on Pan Am. Are you?
I know.
Really?
I couldn't believe it either. I watched every episode of that show, and I read it in an article, and I was like, "What? That was Margot Robbie?" I'm pretty sure someone looked.
You're probably right.
Look it up and fact check me. But it reminds me of the concept of Pan Am. Although the twist of Pan Am, I thought, was much better than what this sounds like, because Pan Am was all these flight attendants who would go to these amazing places, but the twist was they were like spies for like they were flight attendant spies who would go and do these dangerous missions. So I don't know, if I'm gonna watch this Girls in the Bus, there needs to be like a twist part of their character that I mean, I would be okay with spies if they wanted to go in that Pan Am direction, but
Christina Ricci was also in Pan Am. Now it's Pan Am Radio.
Yeah. Yes, Christina Ricci at the time, I think, was like it was an ensemble cast, but I think she was like the big star at the time.
Yeah, that's so funny. Well, I like that. I mean, it was a period piece too. So this one,
Yes.
I feel like if they want to take some notes from Pan Am, have it be a period piece so we have fun outfits, and then they're all secretly spies.
Yes. I mean, I would just say, I'm okay if it's just a copy of Pan Am with buses. Like, I'm okay with that. If that's the approach they want to go with, I'm totally on board. So
it's Pan Am, but more luxurious because it's buses.
So that's what I thought of when I read that description. I was like, wow, that sounds a lot like Pan Am. But anyway, so good for Melissa Benoist for getting a new gig. So if you want to check her out, I guess that's going to be on HBO Max. So that's right. That's right up our alley, because we're big fans of HBO Max.
We love HBO Max and its programming. HBO Max.
Yeah.
I'm working really hard to get us like a HBO Max sponsorship, but not in any way that would actually accomplish it by just name dropping HBO Max for free.
We're just promoting their programs.
We just love their stuff.
We're just really big fans. So maybe that'll be something. Maybe we could do a pilot pod.
Ooh,
Girls
that'd
on
be
the Bus.
fun.
Yeah, so we'll have to check that out when it comes around. So that is going to do it for our news portion of this episode. And but before we wrap up, we would like to thank our legion of super sponsors for supporting Supergirl Radio. These people are Michael, Sam, Anne Marie, Yvonne, Quinn, Nicola, Leslie, Abby, Irmgard, Miriam, Donna, Nicole, Lizeth, Faith, Brian, and Ethan. And if you would like to become a Patreon supporter, a patron, if you will, you can go to patreon.com/Supergirl Radio. We have 4 monthly levels that you can choose from. And this just helps us do cool things for our community. It helps us keep the lights on with some of our fees for the podcast. But it's just a good way to support the podcast. And you get extra bonus material of things that don't get mentioned on the podcast. So you get your free Supergirl Radio during the week. But then with the Patreon, you get some extra behind the scenes stuff. So if you didn't maybe see Beaker or Bunsen, there might be a chance that you might see Beaker and Bunsen on the Patreon.
They don't always show up, but
yeah, so you never know what you're going to get. We never know what we're going to get.
We don't.
I
certainly don't.
So that is the benefit of being a Patreon supporter. Well, if you would like to keep up with me, you can find me, if I can find myself in here. You can find me on Vero, which is the social media platform I prefer. I think is the best one. But you can find me there at Derby Kid. I'm also on Instagram at The Derby Kid. I'm obsessed with reels, trying to get into making more Instagram reels, trying to be proficient with that. So if you want to see my exploration into Instagram reels, that's a good place to do it. You'll see more of that from me soon. But you can find me on Instagram at The Derby Kid. I also have a personal YouTube channel, youtube.com/DuckMilkProd. I've been inconsistent as of late with my Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice reviews that I'm going through, which is not good because now I'm 2 weeks behind.
It's a marathon, Rebecca, not a sprint.
It's going to take me 5 years to complete this project of going through the critical reception of BVS, but I'm going to finish eventually. So just stay tuned to the YouTube channel, and I will schedule them. So hopefully you'll know when I'm going to be live. Also, just as a reminder, I have a link to a Make-A-Wish fundraiser page for my good pal Mike, who's doing a fundraiser for them, trying to raise money for Make-A-Wish. He is a big DC fan who got me into reading comic books. He let me borrow a lot of his older comic books from the 80s, including Teen Titans. That's how I became a Titans fan. So shout out to Mike, who's doing some good work trying to raise money for Make-A-Wish. If you'd like to help him raise some funds for a great organization, click on the donation link in the video description of this live stream or in the show notes of the audio podcast.
That's such a great cause, too. So you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Mojotastic. You can also find me as a co-host on DC TV After Dark. We're doing it soon. I'm not making any promises, but it's going to be soon. It's going to be soon is the thing. Not telling a specific date. I don't want to nail myself down to that.
Don't spoil it for us.
No, I don't
leave it as a surprise.
Time is relative, right? So soon is soon. But the best way to know when it's going to be is really to hit that subscribe button on your podcast listening app of choice, and then one day it'll just show up like magic, and you'll be like, how about that? Over on the Legends of Tomorrow, we are a little bit more beholden to, schedules and television. So it will be back this week, I think this Wednesday. So we'll be back talking about the last 2 episodes of season 7. So that should be really fun. And it's a great time to jump on if you've never watched the show or listened to the podcast. Right at the end of season 7 is the best time to begin.
Well, I highly recommend both podcasts. The Morgan and Glennon podcast universe is a great place to be if you're a podcast fan. So get into it.
This made me laugh that Nicole says Morgan teasing the next DC TV After Dark episode is like the CW teasing the head of Leviathan.
We will never know.
You know what? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but they're not is the thing. That's the difference.
Well, hopefully when the podcast Head of Leviathan comes around, it will be worth the wait. So that's good to know. Well, keep your ears peeled for new podcasts out of the Morgan Glennon podcast universe. That's a mouthful. All right, but for Supergirl Radio, that's going to do it for this episode. But until next time, I'm still Rebecca Johnson.
And I'm still Morgan Glennon, and we hope you enjoyed our chat with Laurie Hernandez.
McGurk! I love typing.
Not mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that. So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom, because her outfit,
she looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Yeah!